let's review the exit interview. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Sharks Latest. I'm your host, Jimmy, here to bring you everything regarding your favorite hockey team. If you can't get enough Team Teal, my friends, make sure you hit that subscribe button below, and you'll be part of the Sharks Latest family. Don't forget the notification bell, and you won't miss a single episode going forward. So we're going to be reviewing and having 4 key takeaways from GM Mike Grier's exit interview. I know I'm a little late on this one. The exit interview was done about a week ago, but at the same time, I did have a series currently going where we were handing out letter grades. I really didn't want to interfere with that and plug something in and then come back to the grading. So decided to finish the series on the grades first, then decided I would come through like I am today with a review on the exit interview. So about a week ago, GM Mike Grier sat down with media for about 45 to 47 minutes. Pretty long interview and just fielded a ton of questions. Gave his insight on how he felt the team produced this past season, on what he thinks needs to be done for the offseason to make this team maybe make that next jump towards playoffs in the next season, what he liked, what he maybe didn't like. Overall, he did say that he was satisfied. How can you not be? That's a pretty easy answer to answer. I guess I should say question to answer, but pretty easy to say, you're satisfied with the progression. How can you not be satisfied with the biggest point improvement out of any team in the NHL? How can you not be satisfied with dang near doubling your win total for year one for Coach Warsaw? Into year two, there's definitely some great strides that have been made on this team, and that's exactly what Mike Grier was able to point out in that exit interview. Did point out a lot to the young core, the young nucleus, and how well they seem to be progressing down the stretch and as the season continued to progress. But of course, did also mention that defense just was not where it needed to be. Did mention we were in the bottom 4 when it comes to goals allowed. And he does want to see some improvements on the defense, just like us all. I'm so glad you said that, GM. The defense needs improvements. He also mentioned he wants to see some improvement on the power play and the PK unit, which we did see about middle of the pack, at least for the power play. They're about 17th, 16th in the league. PK unit, now that's something that's left to be desired. So I absolutely agree with GMMG on that. But overall, he is very satisfied with this team and very satisfied with the trajectory of where they seem to be going. Now, the next thing he did really talk about or was questioned on was Coach Warsofsky and his coaching staff, which Mike Grier, same thing, mentioned he kept it real. That's what I like about GMMG. He's good at just keeping it real, keeping it a buck. He doesn't seem to have interest in just telling you what you want to hear to get you to shut up and go away. You know what I mean? He's going to keep it 100%. And that's what he did when he was addressing Coach Warsofsky. So kept it a buck, right? He said he did great, admirably. He's proud of what he was able to get out of his young group. That's something that he pointed out early on in his comments in the exit interview. Now, he did mention as well, there's a roller coaster ride. There was the good, there was the bad, there was the up, there was the down. And he does want to see Coach Warsaw focus and find a way to get a little bit more of that stability going forward. But the quote that you have to walk away with, that I think most people took away from this exit interview, verbatim, he said, GMMG said, when asked if Coach Warsaw is expected to come back next season, at least just for the beginning part, if not for the entirety, Mike Grier responds by saying, There's no reason to think he won't be the coach of this team when the season starts next season. Now break that down a little bit. You can easily just hear that and say, okay, cool. Coach Warsaw has decided that GM has decided Coach Warsaw is returning, I should say. But the way he words those words, it's in my opinion, GM MG, once again, keeping it a buck. We talked about it yesterday in yesterday's video. The average lifespan for an NHL coach tenure right now is about 2.5 years. There is a constant changeover, and you just got done seeing that. Best example is Las Vegas Golden Knights. They had their team who just won a cup only not less than a handful of seasons ago. Their coach, with, I don't know, what was it, like 8 or 9 games left? Fired their coach who took them to the cup, won a cup with them, because he just wasn't getting enough out of the team. The Golden Knights were in a playoff spot when he got fired. But nonetheless, you saw that turnover happen. In my opinion, I don't like to see the constant turnover, but that's just the nature of reality of what the NHL is and where it's at today. And so don't think that maybe the Sharks will be completely different in that trend. If Coach Warsaw comes out and maybe let's use this as an example. The Sharks, when they had Peter DeBoer, Peter DeBoer took the Sharks to the Stanley Cup. Ultimately, the Sharks lost, unfortunately, but he was, in his first season, able to get the Sharks further than the previous, Todd McClellan had in his tenure. But nonetheless, all it took was Peter DeBoer to start a season. I think it was not the next season, but the season after that. Started his season rough, lost more games than he won in the first maybe 15 games. He got canned, he got fired, moved on to somebody different. And so, I hate to say it, but gosh, there is a high reality that could be the case for Coach Warsaw. If he doesn't hit the ground running next season, if he doesn't get the team starting off and playing well, you saw how the Sharks started out this season. Started off on a very bad losing streak before they finally found their way and started winning. So, if that same thing is to happen this next season, starting out on a losing streak, will that be enough for GM MG to decide to maybe pull the plug and try somebody different? We will see. But that is the question of the day for you all. Do you want to see Coach Warsaw back? Do you have trust in Coach Warsawski? Or do you think it might be time to maybe have some discussions, kick the tires on some potential replacements in the offseason? This is the final year of Coach Warsawski's contract. So you can see potentially him play out his contract, not get fired necessarily, but maybe still see the Sharks decide to go a different direction. Very interested to see where that goes. But GM MG did also mention that it is going to be a time in the offseason to also evaluate the rest of the staff and see what makes sense as far as who should stay, who should go, what kind of changes need to be made there. That's where I think there should be some changes. Of course, Coach Warsaw has absolutely earned that right to come back and be the man at the helm next season. That is no-brainer, and I don't think anybody would, maybe they will think differently. There are some decent head coaching options out there, and I might potentially do a video soon that talks about some potential other candidates that are available on the market should the Sharks go and look that way. But for sure, I'd like to see a change with some of the assistant coaches. Did talk about that in yesterday's video. So interested to see where GMMG goes with that evaluation there. The next thing he did talk about was the status of the roster, which once again, he talked about the young nucleus, the young forwards. He's very satisfied with that. very expectant on seeing a lot of these young nucleus players returning for the team, improving, and that's what he thinks is the biggest need for making the Sharks make the next jump in the next season is just development and natural progression for these youngsters. He thinks that is going to be a big contributing factor for the improvement of where the Sharks will be in next season, and I agree with that a lot. Of course, on the defense, there has to be changes there. He did address that there could be some new faces coming to the defense next season, but nonetheless still pointed out that it's the natural progression that he's looking for to help the Sharks make the next jump. And so one thing that I do admire from him is that he is, as he has been, just like you saw him during the trade deadline, for example, this past season, he says he has no interest in pushing the gas too soon, which means, look, you can still accelerate and you can still speed things up, but just you don't have to put the pedal to the metal. There's a lot of us, including potentially me sometimes, that saw where the Sharks were, getting very close to getting that wild card 2 spot. And we were hoping and expecting GMMG to go out and make some trades at the trade deadline, but he didn't really. And the reason for that is, well, like he says, he says he's not interested in getting to that wild card 2 spot only to lose in the first round. And that's admirable for what he's saying, right? Because a lot of us as fans, our mindset is, wow, we can make playoffs, and this is exciting. We haven't made the playoffs in a long time, and playoff hockey just makes me happy as a fan. But he's got a different way to look at things. He doesn't look at this as a fan. He looks at this as a GM, as he's supposed to. So he's practicing and preaching patience in his rebuild. He understands there still is a lot to go. But he's just not satisfied with making playoffs. He wants to build a cup contender, and I am not mad at that one bit. Now, he did mention Sam Dickinson was given some questions on him and where he's at in his progression. He did mention that he expects Dickey to be back, and not only back with the blue line, but expects him to develop into one of our top 4 blue liners. And so he did mention as well how satisfied he was with Luca Cagnoni, for example, and his limited playing time, but really put the spotlight on Sam Dickinson, on expecting him to make that progression to be one of our top blue liners, whether it's next season or the season after. He does expect that to come. Once again, he expects all the forwards to continue developing. Macklin, Will, mentioned Michael Misa down there, gave a lot of praise to Colin Graff. Didn't talk about anything as far as contract extensions with Colin Graff just yet, but you better believe they're going to happen. Absolutely. Maybe that's why he didn't even need to address it. Maybe that's why he wasn't even given real questions on that either. Does expect Mook Madulin to come back. So we do know that Shakir is going to be an RFA, which does mean the Sharks might have to match what another team is trying to sign him to in order to retain him, but did say he doesn't really expect Mook Madulin to walk. He expects to see him back with Team Teal, so that does mean that GMMG is liking what he's seeing out of Mook Madulin. Did mention that he has already had conversations with Ryan Reeves about Revo returning to Team Teal, and that's something that we all want to see, something that we all like to hear, because I talked about it in yesterday's video as well, or sorry, 2 videos ago, I should say. But Revo is like that Udonis Haslem player coach, does so much more for the locker room, and just being on the bench for the motivation, right, for that veteran aspect and outlook, but still able to get under some players' skin at the same time. So you do expect to see him come back on probably like a 1-year veteran minimum contract. So some other ones here, 2 big blue liners that we're going to be keeping a spotlight on, Vinny Desharnais and Mario Ferraro. It sounds like GMMG is fully expecting Mario Ferraro to go hit free agency and test free agency, because this will be the first time that Mario Ferraro will have that ability to do so. And so he might take full advantage of that. You can't blame the man for it. There's not a whole lot of free agent blue linemen. So what you might find is players of Mario Ferraro's caliber, which is a good defenseman, not a great defenseman, but a good defenseman, might be getting great money just because there's no competition out there. And, well, teams are trying to improve their defense with players, and they have to utilize whatever resources they have. So interested to see if the Sharks might have to get in a bidding war to obtain Mario Ferraro. Vinny Desharnais is expected to come at a little bit cheaper of a price tag. Didn't mention that he expects Vinny to go hit the free agent market and go looking elsewhere, but didn't really mention a whole lot on talks there. Vinny Desharnais is a gentleman that is very season focused. He's an individual that when it comes time to play, the season starts, has no interest in outside distractions, talking about contracts and all of that. Absolutely respectful and admirable. I love that. But I do expect the San Jose Sharks to make a push at re-signing both of those blue liners, if not one or another. And so the last thing we're going to talk about here is just what potential moves we might expect from GMMG in the offseason and from the San Jose Sharks going forward. I love that even though GMMG is being a real one and preaching the practice of patience and not hitting the gas too soon, he also mentions that the Sharks still will be exhausting all efforts to improving their blue line, and that is going to be the number one priority and focus in the offseason, even to the point that he mentioned, he expects if the Sharks get their lower first-round draft pick, if the lottery can give them the 9th, the 10th, the 11th spot, or even better, GMMG fully expects there to be some players available that can give them some improvement and can give them some contribution right away. But maybe if they are to strike out on the lottery and maybe get something like a 13 or a 14 pick, he gets a little nervous when, that comes around. But sounds like the Sharks will most likely get like a number 10 or 11 pick in the draft with that first round pick, because they do have two. So does sound like there should be some players available to draft. But also he mentioned he's not afraid to package one or both of those first round draft picks to find a player that will fit the team better, that might be able to contribute to the blue line right away. And so I love to see that. A GM that is smart in how he plays his cards, but at the same time is not afraid of being a little aggressive if he needs to do that. He has this team's interest absolutely in mind, and whether that is for immediate success or success for the next season, that's something he's keeping an eye on as well. So let me know in the comments below, what were your takeaways from the exit interview from GM Mike Grier? Heard a lot of good things, a lot of great things that are going to be coming up in the offseason. It's going to be an exciting offseason for the San Jose Sharks, y'all. There is just so many possibilities of what can happen, trades that can be made, players that they can draft, players they can sign, players they can call up, dude. It's going to be a fun offseason, and that's exactly what we're getting into with next week's videos. Tomorrow's video, though, to wrap up the week, we'll be talking about our current contracts as well as a salary cap update to prepare us for, what options we might have going forward with the San Jose Sharks. But that's all I got for y'all on a Thursday. Make sure you hit that like. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at Sharks Latest Host. I'll leave you all with the same thing I leave you all with after every episode. Let's keep it real, everybody. Let's keep it teal. I'll see you all tomorrow. Have a great Thursday. I'm out.